So these tiny wooden trees here, they come in all sorts of sizes and shapes. They're very inexpensive. This particular package was retailed for a full price of $1.99. It came with 3 trees. I like them because they're lightweight. You don't have to get that package. That was from Michael's in the United States. But other places that sell crafts for Christmas will have these in children's kits. And you can get them on Etsy as well. I like them because they're so lightweight. I can easily poke holes. I can stitch around them to hold them in place and whatnot. And it's very easy to use. I like them because I can customize them. So for my Christmas tree, I'll start with this one. I can make it a very unusual color Christmas tree. You don't see a lot of pink ones, or maybe you do if they're trending, but it's not traditional. So I love how that looks. It just adds a little elegance to my piece if I'm trying to match a particular color. Now you can paint it all solid. I like to do it kind of simply because then I let my stitching stand out when I'm using it in my fabric books. But if I wanted to hang it on a tree, I could either leave it like this, use it as a gift tag for a present, or embellish it further. I might add a little bit of a different color just to hold it down, add a little variation here, and I'd paint both sides of it. I could take a tree and try and make it a little more traditional. So I'd go in maybe with some darker colors. This is a medium green, blending in some darker color. And if you use a watered down paint, it kind of looks like a stain on the wood, which is kind of interesting. But I like to just kind of play around blending those colors until I get an interesting result. I like that variation. It looks a little more handmade and still professional. So I'll just continue this, building up as many layers as I want. If I want the wood to shine through, I water down the paint. If I want the vibrancy of the color of the paint, I'll let it dry and add additional layers. Now for this one, I'm just gonna go straight green right to the bottom. Then when it dries, I'll make that star gold, and I'll show you how that looks once it's complete. Another technique that I like to make these trees a little unusual is I'll take 2 colors of paint. Here I have a blue and a teal, and teal's my favorite color. So I'll start by making the entire tree this darker color. So if you wanted to do this in orange or darker blue, like a navy, just choose your darker color for the first layer. Paint a nice layer on that. Again, if you want the wood to show through, water down your paint. And then let this layer completely dry. It's important to dry it so that the next layer that we put on will really show up. So now that that first layer is dried, it looks nice, I'm going to take a little sea sponge. You can use any type of sponge. I just want texture. You can even use a rag that you dampen, just like I dampened this, squeezed out all the excess water, just so that texture is really ready. And then I take that lighter color. You could of course do the inverse. You can do the darker color on top, but then I just like to pounce this along the tree everywhere. And it just gives a very interesting effect, a little bit of texture. You could go back when it dries, add some more texture, you can introduce another color if you want. It just adds another element to the tree. And if you don't like it, once it dries, it's acrylic paint, you could easily paint over it. Show you the trees when they're complete. So when they're complete, you have just these tiny little flat trees that you can use as gift tags, but I use them primarily in my fabric book for Christmas. It's just a flat little piece. I can customize it, and it works out beautifully. They all are double-sided. It's probably not necessary if I'm going to stitch it in place, but that's the technique. I like having the finished piece. You could varnish it if you'd like. I don't see a need, but it's completely optional.